Hey guys, welcome and welcome back. In today's video, I'll be talking about how I managed to move to Bali working remotely and how I'm still able to live in Bali even after quitting my job as a software engineer. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, please hit that like button. So I'm just gonna give you guys a quick background story of how I ended up here in Bali. So I left South Africa back in June, about 5 months ago, with the hopes of becoming a digital nomad, just to try and travel while working remotely. So I got to Bali in June, and the first month was to try and gauge and see if I'll be able to work in a complete different time zone, since I was working for a South African company at the time. And bear in mind, Bali is 6 hours ahead of South Africa. And even though the agreement was for me to work my hours, meaning I would work whatever hours that suited me, but then because I was working with a team of other developers, I didn't want to break the team structure. So meaning I would then work South African hours, which meant that I would start working from around midday Bali time, which would be 6 a.m. South African time. So I would work from 12 midday until 8 p.m. So that would be my 8 hours. So the first couple of weeks were a bit of an adjustment because I was still getting used to, working those kind of hours. Anyways, fast forward a month later, I then decided that I was going to try and stay for another month. By then, I had decided that I was going to try and stay for a little bit longer because the first month wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. So I thought I'd be able to cope with the work, and another month wouldn't hurt. And at that point, I started making plans to actually staying for a little bit longer. So this is where I then started thinking of long term and how I can actually live here for a little bit longer. So I had to try get rid of some of the expenses I still had back in South Africa. And at the time, the biggest expense I had was my car, because it was financed. Even though I was almost done paying it, I felt that it would be a better idea for me to just sell my car and pay off the remainder of the loan, and then keep some of the cash for the future, put it into my savings account. Bear in mind, I also moved out of my apartment that I was renting back in Cape Town beginning of this year, just to try and save up a little bit of money, try travel. So that's what I did. That was the first step into trying to enable myself to travel without worrying too much about money. So that was the first step, moving in with my sister to save some cash. And then the second step, when I got to Bali, was actually selling my car, which wasn't that difficult because it was literally just collecting dust in my sister's garage, and I was paying for insurance because I didn't want to cancel insurance because I wasn't really sure when I left if I was gonna come back in a month or at a later stage. So I got rid of my car, sold it, paid off the loan, took some of the money, put it into my savings account, and then that meant that I didn't have to pay for insurance anymore, and insurance was a little bit expensive as well, so that saved me a little bit of money. And then I needed to also cancel my gym membership because I wasn't going to gym anymore, and I'd been paying, I think when I canceled my gym membership, I had already been paying for gym for about like 3 months. And another thing I had to cancel was my phone insurance, because the moment I moved out of South Africa, they stopped insuring me. So I canceled that as well. I also had to cancel my internet services, which I was using Rain at the time, so I literally had to move my account to my sister's account so that she would then take over and pay because she was using it at the time. So if you can just imagine, by selling my car, getting rid of some of those expenses that I didn't really need while I was in Bali, that really alleviated a lot of pressure, especially when it comes to expenses. And I had already cut my expenses by more than 50% at the time, which made me think about whether I wanted to continue working anymore, which was something I had been thinking about for quite some time. I've actually made a video just touching on why I quit my job as well, so you can go check that out. So yeah, at the time, I basically decided, you know what, I already have, like enough money to sustain myself for the next couple of months or however long. And I don't have as many expenses, and life is pretty affordable out here in Bali. So I felt, why not just try save myself some time, quit this job, and try and explore other things, which is something I had been thinking about for the longest time, but I obviously couldn't because I had all these expenses, apartment, car, insurance, you name it. So I didn't have any of those things anymore. I didn't have anything to worry about anymore except for how I was going to survive out here in Bali, which is basically just getting a place to stay, renting a scooter, buying food. That's how simple life is out here, to be honest. Yeah, that's just how simple life is here in Bali. So yeah, those are the things that I did. And then after doing some planning around how long it would take for me to run out of money and actually maybe start looking at other options of making money, and I then came to a conclusion that I was going to leave my job, which wasn't an easy decision to make considering I had been working for about 5 years, working 4 years for this company that I was working for when I left. So yeah, you can just imagine I was so used to that whole work structure, and I didn't know what I was going to do leaving my job. So it was a bit of a stressful decision, but I did make that decision. I served a month's notice, and even like within that month I didn't feel like changing my mind or anything like that. Yeah, so I decided to quit my job, and here I am right now. How am I still able to continue living in Bali, living in paradise, as many people would say? As I've mentioned before, I got rid of a lot of my expenses that were taking a lot of my income, and because I don't have any of those expenses anymore, things have become a little bit easy for me. I'm able to just use my savings just to survive. I don't need to be paying for a car. I can get cheap accommodation from month to month. Yeah, things are a little bit more flexible, and I've also come to a point where I'm a little bit cautious with how I spend my money, because having a job really enabled me to spend money, even though I wasn't really a big spender. But I spent money knowing that at the end of the month I would get paid, and I didn't really have to worry about that. So I've come to a point where I have to be really cautious of what I spend on, and I have to stick to a budget, even though it's not easy, because I mean, like, I've been working for the past 5 years and I would spend without really thinking twice, but now I really have to think twice before I spend, and I have to consider whether I really need the thing that I'm spending on or not. Otherwise I'll run out of money quickly, and then I'll be forced to go back to getting a job, which is something I'm not planning on doing anytime soon. But another thing that also confirmed that I needed to really just try and explore other option was, after I quit my job, I got my first paid partnership on YouTube, which was really a cool thing, because I've been doing YouTube for quite some time, and I've been planning on making it a full-time thing, and just getting that partnership really confirmed that I could actually make a living out of YouTube, not just YouTube but other things as well that I will be putting my time into, whether it's content creation or just working on side projects, which are things that I've always wanted to work on, but I've never really had the time because of my job. And I think most especially because of the work hours. I was working really awkward work hours, and I was always I always didn't have time to work on any of the things that I wanted to. I know like you could, make time and but I think I'm in a better space to actually start working on those projects and try and come up with multiple streams of income for me to be able to sustain my very simple lifestyle, as I always say. So that's where I am right now, just trying out different things that you guys will hear about in the near future. So yeah, guys, that's all I really just wanted to share with you guys, because I've realized that I don't really talk as much on my recent vlogs, which is something that I'm planning to change going forward, just to give you guys just to let you guys know how I'm feeling and how things are going in my life. I guess the takeaways from this video, or at least what I've learned in the past couple of months, is that it's really important to plan ahead. Write your plans down. Always make sure that you have things on paper so that you can always hold yourself accountable. And the second thing is following through, because I could have just made all of those plans and never really followed through. So it's really important to just look at your plans, tick them off, and make sure that you hold yourself accountable. And part of the planning is really just making sure that you have as little debt as you possibly can, because debt is one of those things that stop people from leaving toxic work environments or just leaving their jobs to pursue their dreams, because they have these debts that they have to settle every month. Those are the things that I really had to think about and pay off some of my biggest debts, because last year I had taken a loan to build my mother a house. So I was really just working hard to pay off that loan, and like selling my car as well. That was my biggest debt this year, and I managed to pay that off by selling my car and also just taking some of the money and putting it into my savings. So with all of those things, I can say it's really important to try and settle debt, even if it's like like those clothing accounts, whatever, those phone contracts, like just trying to pay those things off so that you don't have to pay those things every month. Because when you look at your expenses and you start adding up those small debts, they do come up to an amount that could potentially pay for your accommodation or pay for your car or whatever the case may be. So yeah, just planning ahead, like following through with your plans, and also just trusting in the process. Just trusting in the process and believing in yourself, and creating your own luck. I think that's one of the biggest things. Just creating your own luck, because things aren't just going to happen. You always have to be in a position where you're prepared, and if an opportunity presents itself, you need to be able to just take the opportunity. And I think I'm just gonna end it here for today, guys. Thank you so much. If you made it this far, please hit the like button if you liked what I was sharing, and please let me know what more you'd like to hear about. And if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll check you guys in the next one.